Coulter Elementary School Friday Pop-In program. For those of you who don't know what that is, that was a new program established this year that went to all the elementary schools and did something kind of special for them amidst COVID. They had one educator from one organization who vowed to wear a mask all the time, come into the schools and do something fun with them. Jackson Hole Children's Museum, the National Arts Honor Society at Jackson Hole High School, those are hanging up on the wall with some other works done by Jackson Hole High School art students that did some work for extra credit for us. And our biggest partner was the Teton Literacy Center, which this is definitely their first time doing a large art making activity with us. And to bring it all together, we wanted to put that in the same room as our professional regional artists from Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, because we felt that it was important to represent all aspects of the arts community in Jackson in this space and in this area, as COVID was a very, very difficult time for a lot of us, but I think having a sense of community really helped us get through that, and so we wanted that arts community to be represented in many ways in this room, hence the name Woven Together. So these spiders is what I want to start with, the K through 12 spiders. I mostly went into the classrooms and into the organization spaces to create these with them. There's over 300 spiders in the exhibit. And then the high school students, because they were vaccinated, were allowed to come here on field trips and make their spiders. But each partner did a slightly different variation of the spiders. So any of the groups run by Jackson Hole Children's Museum, they did these little toilet paper tube spiders, which the staff at the museum knows. I pestered them for donations of toilet paper tubes for this project. The CB Ranch kids did sculptures out of newspaper and wire, and then they used Mod Podge to put it all together. TLC did these little styrofoam buddies. The Gap girls, oh I forgot to mention them, girls actually participating, made these paper ones. And then the high school students did wire and kind of found art supplies. I say found because it was just in bins in their classroom, creating all sorts of different stuff. Like there's one made out of keyboard pieces from a keyboard that didn't work anymore. There's one that has little paintbrush legs. This one has beads and ribbon on it, so all kinds of different materials. And so we felt like the art making was really, really important to this exhibit, so we wanted to continue that in the space itself by providing the kids who visit with an art making station. It's very, very simple, just a little spider like this. We also have buttons on the table. If you all want to take one to advertise the exhibit, we have Arachnids equals artists, I love spiders, and then we have both buttons in Spanish. So we didn't want to give people the option to have an I hate spiders button. We thought about it. We want it to be a spider positive exhibit, and we're hoping we can change some people's minds about spiders after they see all of this amazing artwork. Speaking of the buttons being in English and Spanish, you'll notice on the wall that there is 2 of every piece of signage. So this is, in addition to the other exhibits in the museum right now, a fully bilingual exhibit in English and Spanish. About 40% of the Jackson population, their native language is Spanish. So we want them to be able to fully access this exhibit as well. Bison Cast will be coming soon with Spanish language subtitles. We are still in the works. Figures putting subtitles on a video is very, very difficult. But our design consultant is hard at work doing that, and this should hopefully be up by the end of the day. And in addition to the labels on the wall, we also have a binder here of all of the artist bios that our regional artists provided us, and those are in English and Spanish as well. I want to talk a little bit about web creation, and this was a community endeavor as well, as they are a symbol of community for us. We felt that putting all of the spiders on the web, I originally thought, should I put them all organized by different partners and different schools, or should I mix them all up? And I settled on mixing them all up because I think that represents our community better, and the idea that if one of these spiders move, the rest feel it and are impacted by their movements and by their decisions in the same way that our decisions about the community affect the community as a whole. And so this is again another way to celebrate that togetherness we maintained throughout the pandemic. The webs themselves were built by me, Jane Coyote, our summer intern, who, if you haven't met them, is absolutely wonderful. They're doing some fables, feathers, and furs crafts right now with the little kids. And then some of our lovely volunteers who are actually here today. Nancy helped out with the webs. Thank you very much. We appreciate your craftiness. And so we originally planned to put the webs on one wall. If any of you saw this original exhibit proposal, we had just designed them to go on this wall. But Jane built that sample web over there in the corner to start, and it turned out we liked the way it looked being more immersive this way, in the same way that community here is very, very immersive. It just felt like it encompassed the exhibit a little bit better. So now I want to touch on our regional artists just briefly before I pass it off to DG and Rachel to talk a little bit about their specific artworks. But we have 9 artists, professional artists, featured in this exhibit. The triptych on this wall over here was a joint project done by 2 artists, which is why you'll notice there's 8 works, but 9 artists. And so this represents a community greater than Teton Valley. We have artists from Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana. And with that, I want to pass it off to DG to spend a couple minutes talking about her beautiful work on the wall over there.
I'm DG House in, I guess what they refer to me as contemporary Native American artist, or contemporary indigenous artist. And I'm based out of Bozeman, Montana. But I'm also one of the guest American Indian artists in Grand Teton National Park, and we think I'm somewhere in the earth here behind that. I'm not quite sure. And I'm also artist in residence in Yellowstone National Park. So this is the piece I specifically created for my buddy Jane. We go back with spiders. We do too. Yeah. We go back with spiders a good 5 or 6 years. We've been in the web together, doing different projects, scientifically, artistically. So I painted this specifically. This wasn't something I had in the studio. It's specifically for this show. For you, as you're talking about it, this is my signature border. It's kind of like you don't have to frame anything I do because of it. The significance of it, however, is when I was beginning to paint, I wanted to think of something I could do to honor the ancestors and keep that in every piece. So I came up, it didn't look like this 25 years ago. It's evolved into this. So this is kind of reminiscent of parfleche, Indian luggage, rawhide. And so this color palette is repeating. And for you volunteers that like to talk about the actual art, when you're an artist, you want to repeat a color at least once if possible. So not only is it working compositionally, but it's working to balance all the colors in this. The most important part about the colors of this painting is that every one of them appear in Grand Teton National Park and in Yellowstone. I was sitting in the park painting, and some angel walked by and said, "Only paint in the colors that appear in the park," and pointed at me and never stopped. And from that day forward, I figured out what the color palette would be if I were to make earthen paints. This is not earthen paint, this is acrylic. But if I were to make it, this is the color palette of living here. So what I hope in your soul is that when you see this, somehow you're immediately connected to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. I took a little liberties with this spider, or I'm allowed to do that, because I wanted her, to blend in not only with, of course, one of our most popular flowers and the aspens and all that. I wanted you to remember that part of the entire picture and also stand out on your own. So that was my theory behind the way that I painted. I wanted this to very specifically be this part of the country. I was with these group of spider nerds. Do you remember what the place is called in the Tetons? The Barrel.
AMK
Thank you. Yes.
The Barrel Lodge.
You were one of those people. And we were all there together, remember, and we were eating, and everyone was really excited because they were leaving in the dark in the morning to go look for the spiders. And you all had your headlamps on, and it made a big impression. Your enthusiasm, your willingness to go out before in pre-dawn, and I knew what you had just accomplished, and that really inspired me to take this to the early morning, late night, early morning, because these babies are already working. These mamas are working before most of us get up. So that's the story of this painting. If you have any questions, you let me know if it's on this or contemporary native art. Yes?
What are they working on?
They're working on the web.
Oh, they're working on the web. Okay.
Right, and getting ready to feed their babies.
Okay.
Not
Thank you.
These women they're working all the time, aren't they? They're going to tell us about it, how they're working.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You have anything, come up and just ask me. And I'm honored to be here. I really am.
Thank
All
I
right,
have
yes.
a quick question.
Yes.
So how many spiders have you painted in your career as an artist?
Every single one has been for something like this. But this one is amazing, and I do have to say this. I'm only telling you because I paint so very few that the second this went up on Facebook, it sold.
Oh, my God.
That tells you something about people's real connection. And yesterday we were educated at the Pendleton shop of the 2 different Pendleton blankets that feature Spider-Man and Spider-Woman. So if you're really interested, if you go, they are so,
They are wonderful.
That's nice.
she is so knowledgeable, the woman that runs the shop, right? Do any of us know her? But she will tell you the entire story and pull the blankets out for you to show you, okay? All right.
Thank you.
All right, you let me know.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. And I want to pass it off to Rachel if you want to say
Okay.
a little bit about your piece.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. You'll notice I am wearing the Arachnids equals artists pin because I do not love spiders. But this is a goldenrod crab spider and a wild rose that I saw in my backyard a couple years ago, and it stopped me. And it was beautiful the way it was sort of fitting into its environment, the camouflage of it. The pink on its body just matched the flower it was on. And I pick rose hips a lot. I would always pick them. I love rose hip teas, so I pick them a lot. So I like the plant in general, but saw the spider. I took some pictures of it because I didn't recognize it. I'd never seen one before. Googled it a little bit. They change color over the course of like a few days to several weeks, from yellow to white and pink, and then they go back. I guess I was reading that going from yellow to white takes longer, I think, and going back to yellow is quicker process. But it's a fascinating spider, and it was kind of cathartic to paint one. Since I don't like them, I wasn't sure how it would feel to paint one. I didn't want it to be scary or creepy, so I didn't put a lot of detail on the spider. Thank you. I didn't want to like paint all the eyes and the furs and all that, so I just kind of focused on the flower. And I paint on aluminum lately. I like the shine, and I like the way it kind of changes in the light. But what else can I say? It's oil, but I paint in oil, water-soluble oil paint, so I tend to have kind of a watercolor process to it, especially when I start. I like to kind of be loose for the first layer. I work in a lot of layers. There's probably 6 layers of paint on this thing, even though they're really thin.
Did you take a picture of it first, Rachel?
So I photographed this. I had the photograph of the spider. It took me a while to find it. I had a few photographs of it. And then when the call for artists came, I thought, okay, if I were to paint a spider, what would I? So I remembered this spider, and I was like, okay, I have pictures of it somewhere. Because if I paint from a photograph, I only use my own. I don't paint from anybody else's photographs. And I realized I had some decent photo references, and actually in my photo too, I noticed in the corner there's a little bug right here that she's going after, because they don't build webs. Goldenrod crab spiders, they're an ambush predators. So it was, you can see the leg is like up, she's ready to pounce. But I decided not to paint the bug because, again, it adds to the creepy factor. So. But any questions on that? Yeah.
She doesn't look like she has 8 legs. Where are all
She
her
doesn't.
legs?
The other one's folded under, like behind
Oh,
this
okay.
one, and the others are like back behind her. They're a crab spider,
Oh,
so they can like
okay.
walk backwards and
All
like
right.
sideways, and yeah, so you
Cute.
can't see all her legs because they're behind her big old belly.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
It's really beautiful.
And Jesse, are you feeling?
Yeah, I can speak.
Yay,
I'm
Jessie.
not great at speaking to lots of
That's
people.
very
This is my piece here. I'm a Jackson native. I'm not like, I don't consider myself an artist very much. I doodle a lot. But I went to school for art education, and I was very much into oil painting and very large scale paintings. They've always been animal based. However, I had kids and all of that crazy stuff, and I found that pen and paper is the quickest, most efficient way to get things done. And I kind of, years ago, started this doodling process. A lot of the times it was just lines and patterns, and more recently it's become kind of flora and fauna and incorporating that into the animal that I'm making. So just taking the basic shapes and breaking them down and adding in just different textures, flowers, things like that. So when I saw the call for artists, I was like, oh, well, I'll just do a spider with a whole bunch of different greenery and flowers inside of it. So that's kind of my inspiration for the piece. I thought it worked well with the title of the show, Woven Together, because these two things interact every day, all the time, and one wouldn't be without the other. So I thought it was kind of a nice sentiment. So that's kind of my spiel on it. I don't have a lot more to say, but that's it. Do you guys, any questions? Yes.
Is this the first time you've created a work of art about a spider?
About a spider, I've done bugs. I've
Okay.
done
Uh-huh.
I've done like some dragonflies like this, and I'm working on a butterfly right now with the same kind of, along the same theme. But first spider, and my mom is like horrified of spiders and made my son horrified of spiders. So now like both of them are watching me work on this, and Cameron, my son, is like, that's pretty, Mom. I was like, thank you. So that was like a compliment, because he wasn't like spider like he normally is.
That's great.
So yeah.
And for those of you who do not know, Jesse's piece was voted as the favorite by our volunteer crew. And there's a special label to the left that talks about that award.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah.
So a lot of you here voted. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you for voting.
Yeah.
Can we get a really quick round of applause for all our artists that are here today? But I did want to briefly mention again the Volunteers' Choice Award. We really wanted a way to honor all of the hard work that the volunteers do for our museum. We could not function as an institution without you, so thank you all very much. And if you have a chance to read the label, visitors who are just coming in, over the last 34 years, the volunteers have cumulatively donated 73,000 hours of their very precious time to making this museum what it is today. So a big thank you to our volunteers as well. And as a way to transition into our next program, this exhibit was inspired by the video you see on the wall, which is our educational video series that the museum does called Bison Cast. This particular episode, Beyond Beauty, is about the Picasso print Le Ranier, which is on display in our Green Pathways Gallery, along with 15 others of Picasso's prints. We have 31 total, right, Jamie? Of Picasso's
31
prints?
total, yeah.
31 total, 16 are on display, so please take an opportunity to check out Picasso's amazing work.